Hello everybody, this is Mark from Cedar Creek Bottom Farmstead. Another fireside tale. I always get tongue tied with that, I don't know why. But I'm here today with my friend Keith, who I started researching with back in 2007, which we was already hunting together way before then. And he was the one with me when I seen that one in Lowndes County. And then when we got to talking to Mr. Mike Mullane and Mr. Tall from AlabamaBigfoot.com, me and him was together the whole time from 2007. Oh, I'm going to get tongue-tied today. From 2007 to up to, I know, 2013, we had a lot going on in that club. And over, like I told you, over time, it's going to take time to tell you everything. But what I'm going to do is let Keith tell a little bit about himself, and then I'm going to just ask him some questions. And we'll get started from there. So Keith, if you want to tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Not really, but
I know.
my name's Keith Tyler. Lived here most of my life. Currently live here on Merkle Mountain, Grave to Hill Road. And all this came about by accident. We never really started out hunting Bigfoot or nothing like that. It just kind of fell in our laps when it first started. So we just kind of added to what we did a little over time till we come to find out more and more about it.
Yeah, that's basically what happened. And we had some pretty good experiences over the years. There was a lot went on.
I mean, we'd be in there coon hunting and we couldn't figure out why the dogs would quit and come back to the truck.
Right.
And they were good dogs, and they just wouldn't do it. And we come to find out over time that if we pulled up at a place and you couldn't hear any insects, no crickets or anything else in the woods, you were wasting your time to turn the dogs out because they wasn't going to do it. There was something else in there.
Well, why don't you tell them about the time that you and Larry went up there? I wasn't with y'all that time. I think I was at work. About what took place over there on the trash pile road.
Yeah, I mean, we turned the dogs out like normal. They took off. They got on trail pretty quick. They got out of here and real fast. And after about 30 minutes or so, we couldn't hear the dogs. So we decided we'd go down through there because there was a bend in the creek down there, and we thought maybe they was around behind that bend, the reason we couldn't hear them. So we took off down that way, and we get down there about 200 yards from the truck, and you could smell something stinking. I mean, it smelled like something dead, real strong. Still couldn't hear the dogs, and then we took a few more steps down that way, and all of a sudden something just let out a loud roar, scream. I mean, it makes the hair on your neck stand up. And we decided we better get out from there, so we made our way back to the truck. We just didn't even fool with going to find the dogs, but when we got back to the truck, the dogs was in the dog box. They was already loaded themselves up, and that don't happen.
They was ready to go home, wasn't it?
That don't happen. You'd have to catch them dogs, put them back up.
Yeah, it was, as I say, or I've told a lot of people, it was a reality check. When we discovered that we knew something was on the mountain.
Yeah, we didn't know what it was at the time. We thought it may be a bear or something.
And see, this is an experience that Keith and Larry had before we knew about the boogers. So it's like I told you in the past videos that me and Keith and Larry and other people had experienced stuff before then. We just didn't really know what it was. It was just, and then when Mr. Tall come here and made his call, and they answered back, and he said, yeah, y'all got boogers, you know, and pretty much figured out what we had, and we went from there. And been an interesting ride. Been very interesting. One thing I was gonna show you is this is a knuckle print that come out from the beaver pond. I don't know how well you can see. I gotta learn how to stay in the camera. But you can see the ridges on the knuckles. This was found down in the creek bank. And I told you before that Keith had made a mold of one that had 4 toes, so you can see. Let me go there. You can see how crooked one of the toes was. So we don't know what happened to the 5th toe. Don't know if it snake bite or got cut off or deformed or what. But we sent. Did you send Mr. Tall a copy of these, or how'd you do that?
He made some pictures of them.
Oh, okay. And sent them to, who did he send them to? He sent them to somebody.
I don't remember who it was, but just somebody he dealt with.
Well, the day we found out, and actually we jumping a little ahead, but actually we had started feeding there at the beaver ponds. We started putting up peanut butter, and over time we'll get into that deeper what went on with all that, because there was some wild stuff happened during that time when we started doing that. And during this time, me and Keith was keeping this pretty quiet from the other club members. We wasn't really talking about it a whole lot. Like I told you in the other videos, me and him done a lot of the research during the week when there wasn't nobody up there, and on weekends we would kind of stay away from up there. Or if we did go, we went late at night just to, keep down activity. And the other thing and I mentioned this to y'all in one video that Keith got this one out. This is a CD, and that's the speaking or whatever they're doing that he captured with his recorder. Actually, we were coon hunting that night, and you want to tell them a little bit about that, Keith?
Yeah, I had recently got a recording dish with a microphone and everything, amplifier. And so we were out coon hunting. We quit hearing the dogs, so I drove out to a point on the mountain where you could overlook a large area just to see if we could hear them. So I turned this thing on, trying to catch the dogs barking. Never could hear the dogs. And I didn't know I had recorded this till I got back to the truck, and I replayed it just to see if there's something I missed, and that's when you could hear it, but you couldn't hear it with your ears. You couldn't hear it with the headphones on or nothing else. The only way you could hear it was after it was recorded. And
yeah, so, I know I pulled up and you said you told me you got to listen to this.
Right.
And when I listened to it, I was like, what in the world is this? And
right. And Mr. Tao, he had it analyzed by someone he knew real well, and they said that humans could not make the sound that's on there because their range is not low enough. And something else, what did I say we'll go up?
I can't remember.
But anyhow, he said it could not have been made by any human voice.
It's strange, and I'm going to have to figure out how to download this and hopefully have it on the video where you can hear it. It's wild. It's been a long time since I heard it. He played it in the truck a while ago, and I mean, that brought back.
Yeah, it'll still give you chills just listening to it.
Listen to it. It's wild sounding.
To know something like that's going on out there, and you can't hear it. You don't know it. It was just by accident.
And that's just like when Adam started doing all his recordings up there. I mean, I got to get a hold of him too, get him on camera, and maybe him do some of his recording too, because boy, he got some good stuff too. I think he got some paranormal too. I think he was picking up a lot of paranormal stuff, but because there was some crazy stuff going on. I know Pat caught some stuff, And Lori, the few times she was here, she caught some stuff on the club with her recorder. And I don't know if Mr. Towle ever used a recorder up there. I can't remember.
I don't think he did, unless he did when he was camping. But
so I can't remember on that one.
And I know too, when we first got into this a little bit, started getting into it, and knowing there was something else up there, which at the point in time we still didn't know what it was. We were on a dog run that morning, and there were 5 black, with the windows blacked out, SUVs come off the mountain in the middle of our dog run, and they'd been in a real remote part of the club, and they come out and left, didn't stop, didn't talk to nobody, don't know what they were doing or nothing else.
Yeah, they went past.
No tags, no nothing. They were just a blacked out SUVs.
Later on, that's when the helicopters started showing up.
Helicopters would show up. Anytime you was camping or anything like that, there'd be helicopters come hover above you. And
well, that went on for a couple of months, then it finally quit. But that morning, that was kind of weird when that truck come down through there. I mean, they went right by me, and it was a strange morning. They went by a bunch of people on the club that day, and everybody was scratching their heads who they were. And come to find out, later that day, the game warden had been sitting down at the highway at the entrance of the hunting club. That was strange, too. He didn't come in the hunting club. He stayed down there, and he knew us well, so I don't know why he didn't come up there.
I'm sure he's the one that gave them access, because they wouldn't have had no access to the gates.
Could have been.
But they were already in there, and this was first light when we started dog running, and they were already in there coming out.
Yeah, I don't know what them people were doing. I still don't know to this day. But it's like that same thing that they seem to pop up wherever Bigfoot reports start happening. It's kind of strange. It ain't the first time we heard about it. Mr. Tall even told us we might see something like that. Darn if we didn't. It was kind of, I mean, this Bigfoot thing it's just weird.
Yeah,
it's weird.
I'm sure it was probably the government in some form of capacity coming in there trying to quieten it down, shut it up where word didn't get out.
Or see if they're a rogue group, or which I don't think that bunch up there is real mean, because I think many times we was around them. If they wanted us or hurt us, they could have.
Yeah.
Now I ain't gonna say I'll go up there and be buddies with them, but they did kind of get I don't know what you would say.
Well, you know, early on when we first started doing it, we had difficulty in hearing much of anything.
Right.
And
then all of a sudden,
I asked you if you'd leave your gun in the truck at night.
Right.
And we'd go out there, and it's just like a whole different ball game. They started having coming around and making noises and knocking and everything else. It's like they could sense you had that gun, and they would stay quiet. But if you go out there without any kind of weapon, you get a whole lot more activity.
Yeah, that's true. We've learned just to leave the guns in the truck. When they would come up, we would wave at them, talk to them, and you'd see them sometimes peeking out from around the tree. You'd see their eyes shine. You'd hear them walking sometimes, and then you'd hear whistles. You'd hear the rock clicking. They do all kind of little different things.
Oh yeah, they're. I don't know if you call it more curiosity or just playfulness, but I mean, we had some things going on that more of a joke than anything else.
Yeah,
but
I think they do play practical jokes. I think too, you know, it's like later on when they started showing up down there at my house, you know, down there, man, they got wild down there. And of course, I'll be telling about that later. That gets into some pretty depth stuff there. And Keith got a lot of more in-depth stuff, things that happened to him when he was on the club by himself that over time will tell. But I am trying to keep these around 30 minutes, and he don't like being on camera. I'm gonna just go ahead and tell you, and I really don't like it either, but I'm getting kind of used to it because I done figured out I'm just talking to a camera right now, so it ain't downloaded yet. So, but me and him's had some very good experiences. His wife several times has had some experiences. She actually seen one.
she saw one twice.
So
different one. She saw that. I guess it was a juvenile
Right.
Because she said it was kind of a reddish orange color.
Right, and it wasn't real big.
And it went across the road in the trees. It wasn't on the ground.
And if Marsha will be willing here in the next few episodes, maybe to tell her side of it, I'll come back over here to Keith's and we'll let her, tell you with her own mouth. That way, me and Keith ain't adding nothing to it. She tells you, that way you know. And one other thing I was going to get you to tell was about what happened here on this place when you were young.
Yeah, back in the 70s. I lived here in this exact location with my grandparents, and there was something after the cows one night, and we went out there with flashlights to see if we could see what was going on. Didn't see anything. My younger brother, he was out there with us. He was probably about 8, 9 years old at the time. And so when we got back to the house, he wasn't with us. So we went back out there looking for him, and we got about halfway back out to the barn, and here he comes running and screaming and crying and everything else. And what had happened, something had picked him up by the neck, and he had finger marks on both sides of his neck where something had picked him up. And he said he was completely off the ground. And we don't know if we scared it and it turned him loose or what happened by going back out there, but I believe if we hadn't went back out there, he would never been seen again. So I think it was fixing to leave with him.
Yeah, and that was in the 70s?
Yeah, and he said he was kicking and punching and everything. And I can remember back in the early 70s that my grandparents, they always killed hogs every winter. And usually we'd have some bobcats and stuff like that come around. You could hear them screaming around after we'd done that, because there'd be a lot of fresh blood in the air and everything like that. But my grandmother and grandfather, they stood right out in this yard, and at the bottom of the hill where my mailbox is, they said it was a bear. They wouldn't go no closer, but it was after dark. But they'd stand out there throwing rocks at it, trying to run it off, keep it from coming up in here, but it was on 2 feet. They said it never did go down on all 4 feet. It was just walking around on 2 feet, and they threw rocks at it till it left.
Also, where a deputy got called out here right a couple of doors down.
Yeah, it was actually that same week that happened. It was Billy Joe Pope. He was a deputy, Talladega County. Right. He came out. Somebody called him, said there's something messing around the house, and he come down. He pulled up in front of the house, and he saw something standing there he thought was a bear. He unloaded his revolver on it, and it never flinched. It never moved or nothing else. He said he got back in his car and left. He wouldn't even get out. He wasn't going to find out what it was. But whatever it was, he emptied 6 rounds into it and didn't phase it.
I think Mr. Tall went back and found that report that he had made, that he, because anytime they...
Yeah, it was a report made from it.
I think Mr. Tall did find it. Because anytime an officer shoots his weapon, they have to report, what went on, and they have to account for it. So that was... so there's already some history here, like I told you before, in some of the other videos. There's already stuff going on. We just didn't know what we were dealing with.
And I can even remember back further than that. At the time, I thought it was just a guy just telling tall tales and stuff like that. But we used to have a neighbor, and him and my grandfather would talk a lot. I was probably 8, 9, 10 years old myself, and he told many times about something being on this mountain. Nobody knew what it was. Yeah. And he said there was somebody came from Birmingham, and they had 50 pit bull bear dogs. 50 dogs in one pack. They took up that mountain. Said the dogs went up in there. About 30 minutes later, the dogs beat the people back out. They would not chase whatever it was. These were trained bear dogs, and they didn't want nothing of it.
That sounds about right, about what happened to us a lot of times coon hunting. Dogs will beat us back to the truck.
And you take 50 dogs that are trained for bear, I mean, they're going to be vicious.
Yeah.
And for all of them to turn tail and run, I mean, there's something that done it.
That mountain has there's some very weird stuff. That's why it started really. Later on, we started calling it Creepy Mountain because it's kind of a creepy place. You know, we have the boogers up there. We know there's probably some paranormal. And there's no telling what else might be up there roaming around. I mean, this is a big place, and I'm on, you know, like I told you on the previous videos, I'm going to go up there and do some filming at the different places where stuff happened with me and him. I'm going to get with him, and me and him go up there some days, and that way we can sit at the spot and talk about what happened. Of course, it deals with my time and his time. We both got a lot going on, so, you know, but we'll get it in there, and it's been an adventure. My son, he's sitting over here, y'all can't see him, but he, of course, was real little when a lot of that was going on. I think he vaguely remembers he don't remember too much of it. Of course, I didn't carry him much. His mother kind of didn't want me carrying him up there much after she found out what I found out. Because, you know, I told you about her having some experiences prior to us, you know, finding out them things were up there. But it's been something else. We had a good outing up there one time, 2008. We had a bunch of people. That's when first time me and Keith got to meet Mr. Mike Mullane. He was a real good fella. He passed away from cancer a few years later, but he was a real good guy. And I think that's where we met Pat. Pat came up from Florida, and Lori came. I'm trying to remember who all else came over here. Of course, Jim King.
There was some from Oklahoma, some from Texas.
Vicky and Dan, wasn't it? Vicky and Dan was their name.
Yeah.
And Hattie was up there at night with us, which Hattie is a local guy. And you'll hear, there's some stuff about Hattie too. Old Hattie got in, he found out he already kind of knew something was up there too. And then he found out me and Keith fooling around with something up there, and he kind of got involved for a while. So there's a lot of interesting stuff. We had a lot of club members over the years.
Yeah, he kind of laughed about it for a while. He was up there that night, and another guy was with him, and that let out a T-Rex.
Yeah, T-Rex.
Yell. I mean,
all up.
It sobered everybody up.
Yeah, that one guy that was with Hattie was feeling pretty good that night. They were up there riding, and we had been coon hunting. And they stopped talking to us a minute. And Keith got his drum bull out, pulled that thing, and I mean, it makes a god-awful racket. And boy, I mean, he ain't even got it stopped good, and that just raw back. But I mean, it was so intense.
Yeah, and so long. I mean, it was so a long yell. You could almost feel vibrations from it. I mean, it was so loud.
It was crazy. So we've had a lot of stuff going on. And there's been a lot of other club members that's had experiences. We had a few people get out of the club because of it over the years. We got a few up there that still wouldn't admit to it, but I think they knew something was there. I think they just didn't want to seem crazy. Like I told them, I didn't care if they liked it or not, but you know, I seen what I seen, I heard what I heard, and there's no mistaking what was going on. So it's been an adventure. It's been an adventure. But and like I said, I'm gonna get Keith back on some more because he's got a lot more to tell, and different things that went on. And like I said too, me and him got to investigate in other areas. Mr. Tall or Mr. Mike would let us know about stuff, and then I guess the word got out, and we started getting phone calls about it. People would call and want to talk to us about it. And you know, I told you about one of them where me and Keith went over on the east side of Sylacauga to a guy I used to work with, quarry, and you know, we found the tracks in the creek.
In the ice.
In the ice, and then we found hair that ended up being up I thought it was cow hair just because it was in a cow pasture, but we went and Mr. Tall said, "No, send that to me." We ended up sending it to him. It wasn't cow. It was unknown. So.
What got me about that one was the strides of the steps through the ice, where they broke through the ice. You're talking about a 6-7 foot stride from like, 1 foot to the next.
It was wild. I finally found some of them reports. In fact, Jonathan Odom was one that helped me retrieve some of them, and it still had the pictures on there, but I cannot get them to transfer or nothing. I don't know if there's something going on with that website. But he told me, he said he's seen some of the other reports, but he couldn't get them to download for some reason. But he said he was going to try again, so I'll have to hit him up. I tried to get a hold of Mr. Tall, but I understand he's been sick. The number I have for him now is saying it's disconnected, so I hope something ain't happened. But I haven't heard. I figured if something happened, we'd done heard it through the Bigfoot world.
I ain't heard nothing on.
I hadn't heard.
He's on Facebook. I ain't heard nothing about nothing wrong there.
I was going to talk to him. Of course, he got that book he wrote. You know, and we had us in there and some other people in Alabama, some other places. So there's I'll have to show that book one day on video, and that way if somebody wants to order it, I think it's still on Amazon. I think I've seen it on there.
Yeah, and if we still have it, it would help you a lot. Marsha wrote down a lot of this stuff that went on,
right,
and she dated it, so it's in order as stuff happened.
Right.
If we can find that, or she knows where it might be, you know, that would help a lot about keeping this stuff in order, and probably stuff you even forgot about.
Well, yeah, because you take...
I mean, it's been so much stuff, unless somebody just asked you about a certain thing, you just don't even think about it.
Yeah. And you know what was amazing, after we got to doing the Bigfoot research, we had people come forward and tell us about stuff that happened to them prior to it being a hunting club when it was open permit land. In other words, you went to Kim Clark and bought you a $20 permit, and you could hunt all their property in Alabama. The things that went on up there with them, and it's just like my mother come out and told me about something that happened more over toward the flagpole side back in the 1920s that her daddy had talked about. And so there's a lot of history right here in this town or this area. And Keith brought up something about Gravity Hill a while ago, so that's something I was going to mention. Because I did say on this Fireside Tales, I was going to do a little history here and there too. We're in one of the areas of Alabama. I think there's one more spot in Alabama, isn't it, that has a Gravity Hill?
Yeah.
And what that means is you can put your car in neutral and it will roll uphill. Now they say it's an optical illusion. It don't look like one, but and Keith sees a lot of people trying it out every day because it's a hot spot.
You pour water out on the ground and it'll run uphill.
It'll run uphill, so it's crazy. And then, of course, a mile away, where I was raised at, is where the only recorded human in history hit by a meteorite. I grew up 400 yards from where that happened, and there's a historical sign out on the highway. University of Alabama has the meteorite over Tuscaloosa in the Natural History Museum. It's about that big around. It come through the roof. She was laying on the sofa, hit her on the hip. It put a bruise on her that big. And then later on, a farmer, a few weeks later, found one laying in the road. I think it's softball size. He sold it to the University of Alabama. So, and of course, I've told you about the marble quarries, the widest marble in the world and the largest marble quarry in the world. I'm gonna have to go out there and take some video of it for people too. So if you're ever in Sylacauga, there's a couple places to check out already besides Bluebell Ice Cream and the museum where Jim Neighbors, all his stuff is. And Jim Neighbors was Gomer Pyle on Gomer Pyle UFMC, and then on Andy Griffin. So he was born and raised here too. So, but I guess we'll call it a day, and we'll have Keith on here some more, so y'all look forward to him being on here some more and telling some more about Creepy Mountain, and then our few other places we went. We got a real good one about Little Bear Creek, Alabama, that we'll get into. Me and Keith had one go up a tree on us, telling all the other people, hey, there is one right here in a tree. And they just, I don't know what the deal was. And then we had one in the cattails, probably 10 foot, screaming at us. Me and him in a canoe, the worst thing you probably could be in out there. And then later that night, they got throwing rocks. I mean, it got wild. But give us a subscribe, hit that notification button, give us a like, comment. Of course, give me a comment. And if you got a question for Keith, leave it in the comment. I'll let him know it's in there, and he can pull up the page and go in there and answer it, or I'll answer it for him if he wants me to. It's up to him. But enjoyed you being here with us today, and it's hot. It's hot here in Alabama. Boy, it is rough. And heard we already had some blackouts in Rainbow City and Southside today, which is 60 miles north of here.
Another thing too, while I'm thinking about it,
Okay.
there's a spot on this mountain up here, as hot as it is right now. You can get in that one spot, and it's just like an air conditioner.
It is. It is.
About a 20 by 20 spot. You can sit down in that spot, and you swear you're in an air conditioned room.
It is. I remember one time I carried somebody up there four-wheeling, and it was in August, and I told them, I said, you might want to get your long sleeve shirt. And they looked at me, what? It's summertime. It's 90 degrees. I said, you might want to get your long sleeve shirt. And they were proud they did, because that night when we was on them four-wheelers, you'd run through these patches and it felt like it dropped 40 degrees. And I mean, it make you shiver. It's wild. I don't know if it's some kind of air currents, or, you know, the mountain's got a lot of caves on it, a lot of cliffs, a lot of places that nobody goes in. There's probably parts of that club nobody's probably been in 50, 60 years, because it's just so rough. Just like now, most people that hunt up there now hunt around the green patches. Most of them don't even walk the woods hardly. So, and back when we was running dogs, we got in it more because we had to. But it's an interesting place. And I look forward to showing you some video from up there, and real forward to getting Keith back on here, and his wife Marcia, and I got some other people. Pat, when he gets up here, I'm going to get him on here, and some other people tell you their stuff. So you'll see where all of it just keeps escalating over time, what happens. But that's real cool right there, if you can see it. That's that day we found that, and Keith went back the next day, or that evening?
I went back same day.
Yeah, and made that cast. I think I had to get
Took
ready
my
to go
daughter
to work,
with me.
and made that, and then this here. So I'm gonna carry this home, try to download it, and get that back to Keith, and hopefully have it on this video for y'all. If I don't, I will have it on several, when I get a chance to figure it out. My wife's pretty technical, so maybe she can figure it out better than I can. So if I don't, I know some people that can.
That's not a big deal.
So, well, y'all have a good day, and this is Mark and Keith from Cedar Creek Bottom Farmstead. I hope y'all have a good afternoon, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.